What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we will be continuing our in-depth training course of the extraction and post-production process. We cover everything from the science, processing techniques, SOPs, essentially everything you will need to know from A to Z on cannabis extraction, refinement, synthesis, and theoretical understanding. From beginner to novice, we will go all the way through. Got quite a bit to cover today, guys. Without any further ado, let us go ahead and dive right on in to the content. Welcome, everybody. We are going to be continuing on with our extraction course here. This is going to be the last video before we get into the real meat and potatoes of the chemistry involved, the processes involved, so on and so forth, everything that you need to know as far as how you personally can, produce cannabinoids and so on and so forth. But it was very important to cover these three steps, and I highly encourage that you do not skip them. The reason that they were put first is because they are the most important. Besides just learning the chemistry, learning these things are essential, especially if you want to have any sort of longevity in the industry. Manufacturing best practices. So from foot scrubs to supplements, botanical extracts can be utilized across many industries, providing increased effectiveness to a product in many use cases. Manufacturing products with botanical extracts inherently presents unique challenges that need to be appropriately addressed to manufacture products with consistency. This section will define some of the more important principles of manufacturing a product to maintain a level of repeatability and traceability based on current good manufacturing processes. For all of my people out there that just cannot wait for cannabis legalization globally, worldwide, GMP is going to be a standard that most people are going to, everyone is probably going to have to adhere to, but that most people are going to not be able to adhere to due to budget pitfalls, just lack of understanding and knowledge, and many people will get shut down. So if you think the market is flooded now, just wait until it all becomes recreational and the small guy has to adhere to these large standards, which is what you should be doing anyway, and if you've followed us for any amount of time, you probably are. Manufacturing is turning raw materials into a component or a finished product. Currently in the United States, the Food and Drug Administration regulates the standard for manufacturing drugs and supplements under the authority of the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act. These regulations, known as Current Good Manufacturing Practices, or CGMP, require that manufacturers, processors, and packagers of drugs and supplements, including botanical extracts, take proactive action to ensure that their products are safe, pure, and effective. Good manufacturing practices start with the overall design of the building. Products will be manufactured in a building used in the manufacturing, processing, packing, or holding of a drug product should be of a suitable size, construction, and location to facilitate cleaning, maintenance, and proper operations. Any such building is required to have adequate space for the orderly placement of equipment and materials to prevent mix-ups between different components, drug product containers, closures, labeling, in-process material, or drug products to prevent contamination. So for everybody out there that's working in a small little basement or garage and calling themselves some sort of mass producer, these guys are no longer going to be your competition. And if that is you, no hate against you. We've all started there at some point in our lives, but this is just to gear you up. If you want to have any type of longevity in this industry, you need to start thinking about taking these steps right now. Cleanliness is huge. Cross-contamination is huge. These are things that will, if not only get you a huge magnanimous fine attached that you probably, might have a tough time paying, it could also get you shut down or suspended for, a number of days or whatever, and that will once again hit your bottom line. This is something that not a lot of people are thinking about right now, and for 10 years in the industry, I've gone to all type of different laboratories, and I would say the top 5%, maybe 5% of all laboratories that I've been called in as a consultant to visit, regardless of the budget, whatever they've got going, super complex processes, they are not adhering to CGMP requirements. So those guys will probably get washed out. The building's flow components, drug product containers, closures, labeling, in-process materials, and drug products should be designed to prevent contamination, and operations shall be performed within specifically defined areas of adequate size, not in your little Connex shed. There should also be separate or defined areas or other control systems for the firm's operations as necessary to prevent contamination or mix-up during manufacturing. That guy with like 6 jars of oil sitting out on the table, not going to work. On top of these more general building requirements, good manufacturing processes have specific facility requirements covering lighting, ventilation, air filtration, air heating and cooling, plumbing, sewage, wash and toilet facilities, sanitation, maintenance, and equipment requirements. The crusty equipment is not going to work anymore. Pouring solvents down the drain because you don't know how to get rid of them in a hazardous material disposal is not going to work anymore. Dumping all of your product, your spent biomass material out in a ditch somewhere so that you can just cover it up with dirt in a compost pile once it's been absorbed with a bunch of butane and everything. It's not going to work anymore. All right. Once these building, facility, and equipment requirements are met, the general focus of good manufacturing practices is maintaining control and traceability of the manufacturing process. To maintain control and traceability over the manufacturing process, the implementation of standard operating procedures, SOPs, batch recording, and internal tracking numbers are paramount. SOPs are documents that outline every step in the manufacturing process. SOPs control the manufacturing process by ensuring that each manufacturing batch is manufactured in the same way, providing consistency between batches. SOPs should be clearly defined in an unambiguous language for every step of the manufacturing process, starting with the initial receipt of biomass material to be extracted all the way through the final distribution of the finished product to ensure consistency. So once again, for the business owner that just has a centralized knowledge base, the chemist that you hired, and nobody really knows what's going on except for that guy, that this isn't going to work. You need to have every single process meticulously documented, outlined, be following that process, and also have that process on file should any third-party auditor or third-party authority come in and want to review and make sure that you are adhering to these manufacturing processes. These should be documented and well known for everybody there. That means that hiding all of your SOPs so you're the only one with knowledge isn't going to work anymore in this industrial scale environment, right? Everybody from the leading power, knowledge power, to the CEO, all the way down to the technician that is cleaning the glassware should have access to the SOPs, should understand the SOPs, should understand what to do in event of an emergency, where the SDS sheets are located, all of this. This is critical. This is critical, and this is what separates the professionals from the hobbyist cook. Depending on the specific processes, SOPs can vary in format and structure. The following are some of the key elements of an effective SOP. These key elements should be addressed in great detail and should include all necessary information to complete the process from start to finish. Number 1, the purpose, a general overview of the process with a clearly defined desired outcome. Example, the purpose of this procedure is to provide detailed instructions for hydrocarbon extraction of botanical plant matter. The scope defines to whom or what a particular set of procedures applies. Example, this procedure applies to all technicians tasked with A. 3. Definitions. Clearly define any terms or acronyms used within the SOP. Example, butane. Butane is a flammable, nonpolar hydrocarbon solvent with a boiling point of -1 degrees Celsius or 30.2 degrees Fahrenheit. Number 4. Safety and hazard identification. Define any potential hazards and safety protocols that are paramount to safely perform the process. Example, butane is a highly flammable solvent. Butane extraction should be performed in an explosion-proof enclosure meeting Class 1 Division 1 specifications. Number 5, preparation. A detailed step-by-step preparation procedure necessary to carry out the standard operating procedure. Example, before extraction, assemble and pressure test the extraction system with nitrogen to ensure that there are no leaks. Number 6 is finally the procedure, which is, so most of the time when you're like, hey man, you get an SOP and it's, anyway. A detailed step-by-step procedure clearly defining the exact process the operator should follow to obtain the desired outcome. Example, step 4, open the material column solvent injection valve located at the top of the material column, injecting 5 pounds of butane for every 1 pound of biomass material loaded within the column. Okay, so detailed step-by-step procedure. This is not this is not ambiguous language where somebody reading your SOP can't meticulously follow to a T exactly what they're supposed to do to be able to replicate the scope of the project. Number 7, a revision history, which is missing from a lot of SOPs in the cannabis industry. A place to record the changes made to said procedure along with a justification for why the procedure was edited. Maybe, you got better efficacy with it. Okay, there you go. Along with clearly defined and optimized SOPs, the entirety of the manufacturing process should be painstakingly, that's an excellent word, painstakingly, recorded with a log of batch records. Batch records should be designed to log all the key data about the manufacturing process. Keeping intensive batch records and logging each specific detail of the manufacturing process associated with every batch helps improve consistency between batches and reduce manufacturing errors. Batch logs can ensure that the manufacturing standards are maintained and provide in-depth information on each batch in the event of a defective product or a recall. The key to successful batch recording is recording the proper metrics. While the relevant metrics and data to be recorded in batch records will vary from product to product, below are some ideas of relevant data worth capturing. And hold on, we'll pause just there. So also another thing that I see missing all over the place is any type of data logging system. Any type of data logging system, which should have solvent temperatures, pressure, the time in the reaction, what catalyst was used, what was the starting material, what did the end starting material come, what equipment was used to manufacture the product, what process was used, where did each ingredient come from, what farmer was it Farmer Brown or was it Farmer Bob, how much of, at the end, when you're looking at a final certificate of analysis, you have no clue. You have no clue because you're looking at it. Let's say that you're looking at 2 different certificates of analysis because you did 2 different separate distillations. One of them says 79% THC. The other one says 84% THC. The problem is the one that was 84% THC took 7 hours, where the one that says 74% THC took 3 hours. And you're looking at them, and then you go back to your knowledge base or your chemist or the worker that you've got sitting there, and you say, why do these not, what is the difference between them? Well, there's no way to tell. You didn't document meticulously every step of the process. So how do you know? If you've go to a certificate of analysis and you find that you've got, let's say, a mold concentration, or you've got heavy metal contamination, or you've got external solvents, what batch did it come from? How many other volume liters or how much volume of our product that we used in this manufacturing process is now possibly contaminated by this? Well, we don't know. We have no idea. We didn't log and meter the process, and if you make changes to your SOP without logging the process, you can't see what changed from batch to batch. You find people that are doing cannabinoid synthesis, for example, and they'll begin to produce cannabinoids, and then they're like, well, this one got 2% delta 8 and this one got 8% delta 8. I don't know, and it's like, well, what did you change between the 2 and the 8%? Well, I don't know. I changed like 5 things. I turned this down. I turned that up. I added this at 1% more. I decided, I didn't have enough ethanol, so I replaced it with this. And none of this is logged. It's all off the top of their head. After doing 5 or 6 of these reactions, nobody can tell me what happened, when it happened, what batch was contributing to it. So you can see that just being a cook in the kitchen and making a bunch of oils to crank out to your local dispensary is not professional. It's not professional in any shape, matter of the word. And I'm being hard on this because it's one of the things that I see missing, except for the upper echelon of laboratories. You should be meticulously part of your job as a chemist, quote unquote, because that's what you're doing in your laboratory is chemistry. It's botanical chemistry. It's, I guess, you could say, maybe you're not out there making pharmaceuticals, but you are still doing chemistry. And 90% of the job is data logging, research and development, SOP implementation, so on and so forth. The actual reaction mechanism, safety procedures, adhering to all of those, the actual reaction mechanism is like 10% of the entire process. So doing 10% of the entire process and claiming to be a professional in the industry is very, very foolhardy, and you might get away with it now when things are kind of in the Wild West as far as the industry is concerned, but there is one day that they will crack down and you will find out real quick that if you would have just implemented, not to mention there's extra time and consideration that goes into all of these things, but the risk mitigation. If you talk to anybody with any business proposition and you say, hey, I'm going to build us a cannabis laboratory, and they say, okay, perfect, give me your business strategy. Before you can talk a bunch of chemical terms way up the wazoo, and they can be like, wow, this guy really understands what he's talking about. But I don't really care. I wasn't going to understand the chemistry anyway, right? What I care about is, what is my investment going to bring back? And if you're pitching me a business venture and you do not have a risk mitigation concept in line, I don't know that you're getting my money. You have to have some really great ideas, and I would have to really be ready to take on a significant amount of risk. But most business owners are risk adverse. Most entrepreneurs, capitalists, are risk adverse. That's how they generated all of their capital to begin with. Risk a little bit, win a lot, right? You risk adverse. So this is risk mitigation. How do I catch things quickly? How do I make sure that I'm not going to get hit with a bunch of fees and fines? How do I make sure that I'm not going to get sued by somebody that got sick coming out of our laboratory? I don't have anything documented. This is risk management, and you should be using this. You should be using this. Okay. Sorry about that. That's a little bit of a rant, but extremely important. Half the people watching this video are just going to skip right over it anyway. They're not going to listen to it anyway, and those guys will get caught by surprise. But for the astute student that pays attention, this is what will separate you. You're not in competition. You're not in competition. People are like, well, it's very difficult to find a job. I'm in competition with all these people. So many people are getting into cannabis. Yes, I understand that, but, everybody makes shoes. Everybody makes shoes. You get Walmart shoes. Are you going to go around rocking some Walmart shoes? No, you're not. There's only one Nike. There's only one Nike. The market is flooded with shoes. What makes Nike successful? That's a question that you should ask yourself, and then apply it to any business that you're working in, chemistry or not. Okay, anyway. So some relevant data worth capturing. Where was each ingredient sourced? When was each ingredient sourced? What is the internal batch number for this ingredient? What was the quality or characteristics of this ingredient? What equipment was used to manufacture the product? What steps were performed? How much of each component were added? How long was the duration of the process? When was the process performed? Who performed the process? Why is John not giving me as good of efficacy, as efficiency as James? James is doing real great, but they're using the same products. What's going on around here? Oh, that's right. John was on his phone for 4.5 hours, and I documented that. A description of the final product, the exact numbers of units produced, and documentation of quality testing. Finally, obviously, that's your certificate of analysis. And for anybody that's used to using metric or anything like this, especially in the West Coast, you're probably pretty familiar. I know in Oregon, I find that the tendencies are more to lean towards this than not. So it's kind of the other areas that are not. So in consideration of maintaining comprehensive batch records during the manufacturing process, each input and byproduct of the manufacturing process should be assigned with an internal tracking number, so each batch of the finished product can be associated with the specific ingredients that were used to make it. So one can provide batch traceability in the event of a defective product, contaminated product, or recall. Or a successful product. A lot of people are like, bad. You should batch record because bad things can happen to you. No, you could hit the jackpot. You could find out that you're making a product that is just flying off the shelves. Well, the most important thing for you as a business owner is to be able to replicate that product as much as possible, as fast as possible, to extract as much liquid capital out of the market as possible. Well, if you've got meticulous data, batch recording, so on and so forth, you can replicate that process instead of just guessing what you did and how you got there. When batch recording is done correctly, one should be able to look back at any manufactured product and know the exact time it was made, who made it, what ingredients were used, where the ingredients were sourced, what batches were made with those ingredients, and where the remaining products from that batch were sold in the case of a recall. This level of recording allows for complete chain traceability of a manufactured good from sourcing raw ingredients to the sale of the final product. We actually made a company called Seed to Shelf that does just this, tracks everything on the Elrond blockchain, so you don't have 17 different filing cabinets filled with a bunch of papers, because that's a pain in the butt. By implementing these manufacturing guidelines, strong quality management systems, and analytical testing standards, consistent and traceable products can be produced. While this section serves as an introduction to good manufacturing process, it only scratches the surface. For more information on good manufacturing processes, refer to Title 21 of the Code of Federal Regulations, Part 111. That's how it's done, boys. Thank you for watching. Whichever video you are watching here, you can be sure to go back and check out the playlist of the other videos that are listed in sequential order from beginner to advanced. And if you're watching on YouTube, you're watching this a week behind everyone else. The students in the Discord actually get these lessons a week earlier every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I highly encourage you to go check that out, because you will also be able to ask any questions or concerns that you may have during the lesson there. If you enjoyed this video, I have no doubt that you will enjoy one of these popping up over my shoulders. Guys, it has been a blessing, a privilege, nay, an honor to be able to teach and consult you. I will see you in the next lesson. Peace out.